Monday again, and I'm back with another live. Of course, it will be recorded, and you can watch it as well here as on YouTube. And luckily, we have an amazing guest today, as always. I'm really excited to be talking to a super creative, and I mean that both as a super creative and a super creative person in the world of chocolate. She works with so many different medias to create wonderful art, and of course it's chocolate and cacao related. So in a moment you'll be having a wonderful artist here, and we will be talking about creativity, and of course the amazing projects. So in just a moment. There.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning for you, and well, good afternoon to everyone in Europe. So
And is
happy.
it evening for you? It's
Well,
evening for you,
yeah,
Rosanna.
so 5 p.m. here, so it's getting towards evening, but I still get some daylight streaming in from my window, which is lovely since we're getting to dark times here in the north of Europe.
Yes, it's starting to get dark a lot earlier here too.
Yeah, that's the negative thing with living in the northern hemisphere. The big shifts. But we're going to talk about the positives today, and some of that has, of course, to do with nature. And
Mhm.
I see a lot of wonderful people joining from across the world, and several people know who you are, but of course, not everyone, and not everyone who's going to watch this later on. So this is an amazing craftsman, craftsperson, and chocolate enthusiast, artist, working on wonderful projects that always get me super excited. There's
Thank
the
you.
chocolate notebook, the happy mail with chocolate creativeness, and wonderful artworks and jewelry. I'm wearing my cocoa pod today. And so, everyone, this is Cyndi, and she's coming all the way to us live from Canada.
Exactly. Good morning. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me, Zana.
So lovely to talk to you today. And I'm sure you've been getting lots of inspiration the past week as you've been out in nature, and I know that's a key for the thriving of creative input, right?
Exactly. I just spent a week at a cabin on the river. There was a beach. The leaves are changing here, so it's like so many colors. It's just amazing. Even to see the changes in the leaves from like day one to like day eight is like, it's pretty amazing to see how different the trees were during a week.
That's the wonderful thing with paying so much attention to the one spot compared to just like moving around, or if you live in a city, you don't necessarily have a couple of trees outside of your door that you can watch consciously.
It's true. It was just totally worth taking the week in nature and chilling out.
I bet I would need that too. And did you bring chocolate?
I obviously brought chocolate. There was just a little bit of chocolate. Sometimes that's the hardest part, right? Packing the chocolate. Because
Yes.
what are you going to want when you're away? So I tended to bring bars that had a bit of tree theme to them, maybe. I brought a few maple bars because obviously in Canada there's maple trees everywhere. Their colors are beautiful this time of the year. So stuff like that I brought because, you always need a chocolate snack. Whether it's hot chocolate in the morning or, with your cheese plate, whatever. It was vacation.
Yes. And you need to always have that option. Like at home, you don't have to think about it because you can always go to the chocolate stash and you pick out whatever you feel like. But on holidays, you need to plan in advance.
Exactly. It's hard to plan in advance what kind of chocolate you're going to want. I'm sure you're like me, where you're just like, today I want, like, you sort of like, I want this bar today.
Yeah, and then always the new bars, the ones I haven't tried before, that I do the conscious tastings in the morning and
Hmm.
writing down notes. And then you have to have that balance with new bars and the go-to bars on the.
Exactly. I took a few new bars as well, obviously, but I find that I tended not to try them as much because I like to try them in the same environment every time when a bar is new to me. I don't know if you're like that as well, but being out with nature, there were more distractions sometimes, or I might have been cold because it was like not like the controlled environment of my house. So sometimes you're like, do I try this or not? Because as we know, where you are can affect how you taste something.
100%. Yeah, and you've been a judge at chocolate competitions as well. So multi skills within the world of chocolate here.
Exactly, yes. Tons of skills in the chocolate. Can never have too much chocolate or know too much about chocolate.
No, that's very true. Do you feel like being a chocolate judge has changed how you do your own tastings at home?
I don't think so. Like, I sort of made myself a form, I would guess you would say, of the way that I taste chocolate a few years ago. And when I taste something new, I tend to still go to that same form. I think that the education that I've had since I first started tasting chocolate really consciously has maybe changed the things that I pick up in the chocolate, but that the process is mostly the same. I do find that judging the International Chocolate Awards certainly helped improve my knowledge. Like it was an amazing experience with tons of learning to go along with it and so many flavors and so little time. I mean, I don't normally eat that much chocolate in that amount of time.
Yeah. Anyone who hasn't judged the competition or heard about it before, how much chocolate can it be in one day, in one sitting?
My sort of personal, like we were judging from home, so my personal preference was about 20 pieces in about 2 hours.
And anyone who's used to having just a chocolate for the evening can imagine that that is a trick on the palate to be able to find all of the details and to be able to judge. Uh,
Exactly. And it's really interesting because like the way that the process is it makes it easier almost to do it and to find all those flavors. But there's a limit where you need to take that break, go away, find something not so sweet.
that's this thing. People say, "Oh, what a wonderful thing to do for like as a part of your livelihood to be chocolate tasters." Like,
Yeah.
yes, but that also makes you really crave savory things.
It's true. Like, there's like, I would really go for like a piece of, vegetable. I would just love a vegetable right now. I mean, most days I like vegetables, but I'm not like, oh my God, I need a vegetable. But when you're judging, you're like, I just really need something, not anything like this right now.
I need to munch on a cucumber.
Exactly.
That's an amazing way to boost creativity as well with so much flavor input.
It's true. It's true. I tend to like to try to eat new foods, so, chocolate or otherwise, it's always fun to be trying new things and expanding your palate. I mean, I know you're like that too, right? You want to explore new flavors, try new things. So when something passes you by that you haven't seen before, you're like, I'll take that.
Definitely. And that's one fun thing with like inclusion bars, because that's when you can try something from across the world that you've never had before, maybe even haven't even heard of, and then try
Hmm.
first time in a chocolate bar.
Exactly.
We got a question from the audience, and anyone who's listening, this will be recorded, of course, and you can ask your questions in the comment and I will get to them. So, do you have a preferred percentage?
That's a hard question, Santa, because sometimes the percent doesn't have anything to do with how it tastes. Like, a 70% could taste similar to a 90%, or 90% could taste similar to a 70%. It's not always about the numbers. Personally, though, I tend to like a bit darker, so like a bit more chocolate, a bit less sugar is sort of my 80% to 90% is probably where I find my favorites a lot of the time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up then. But because for a lot of people, they think that 70 is some kind of limit where it starts to get healthy and the flavor will change and then it will get different, really hard to eat when it gets to 80. So for people to taste and experience, and then they will find their favorite.
Exactly. It's not about the number.
No, it's not. The number, for those of you listening and don't know, it's the percentage of cacao. So how much cocoa beans and cocoa butter is in the bar, and the rest is sugar. So of course the flavor depends on the cacao.
Exactly.
If we're gonna dive into your cacao art, and
Hmm.
the jewelry, and you have so many creative projects. I've been following you for way longer than we've actually talked, because I remember the first time I saw one of your art piece, like your jewelry. It was
Hmm.
the ones that you cut out and you made
Like a
bread.
pod.
Yes, those pods. And I think you had been to, oh, they're so beautiful, to a
Yeah.
chocolate festival, maybe Toronto, possibly.
Yeah, the Winter Chocolate Show in Toronto.
Yeah, and you had sold them there, I think. And
I
some,
didn't tell them at that one, but yes.
but maybe someone just posted about it in connection to that. And I was like,
Mhm.
I like that. I'm gonna save that, and I'm gonna keep an eye out on those beautiful pieces of art. So I've been following you for a long time, and you've been making jewelry for a very long time.
I have. I've been making jewelry over 20 years now, probably close to 25 years. It's what I'm trained in, actually. Like I did a 2-year goldsmithing program. Like that is most of my training. I'm trained in a few other things as well, but that is the bulk of my training. For years, I had my own business in Winnipeg, and it was all doing goldsmithing, and it was really interesting. I tend to work more in silver than gold these days. So I'm as much a silversmith as a goldsmith, but my certificate does say goldsmith, and sometimes that's the differentiating part between like I am a jeweler, but at the same point of time, somebody who puts beads on a string is also a jeweler, and there's a bit of a difference, right? So I am more goldsmith, silversmith, as opposed to just putting beads on a string. I mean, I can put beads on a string, but I do like to play with the metal for the most part.
And that's really fascinating. I feel like you can compare that a little bit to being a chocolate maker and a chocolatier. It,
Yeah,
you're also the one creating the metal, you're shaping it, you are putting an impact instead of buying beautiful pieces of metal or beads and then combining them to a new artwork, more as a chocolatier or a bonbon maker.
exactly. Like most of the things that I do start from scratch, whether that's a piece of sheet silver. I mean, I've made my own sheet silver. I've made my own wire sometimes. That's not something I really do now, but like those are the skills that I have, right? Like I can literally start from a pile of silver beads and end up with a piece of something. And, you know, sometimes I start with wax, like sometimes it's like a flat piece of metal, sometimes it's a piece of wax. Really, there's so many different techniques in the metalsmithing world that it's just like, you know, I have my favorites, other people have their favorites. You do what you can, and you sort of tend to lean towards one or the other. So makes it interesting.
For sure. And how did your craftsmanship end up within the world of chocolate? Because most of maybe all of your jewelry pieces are connected to chocolate, right?
most of them are. There's currently only one piece in my online shop that is not connected to chocolate, and it's a tree. So it's very connected to nature.
Yeah.
And the tree piece is something that I made when I was a teenager and I took an evening jewelry course. Like it was before I took the course. And it's one of the pieces that just keeps selling, and I just sort of keep it around because I like it and other people like it. And it's a tree. I mean, trees speak to a lot of people. So, and you know, it's been with me since the beginning. Like we're close, me and the trees.
Trees are.
So, but chocolate came into it, you know, just because a few years ago I was, you know, like I was working as a dental assistant. I wasn't having a lot of creativity. We're in our house currently, like I have a jewelry studio set up in the basement, but it wasn't getting a lot of work. So I was like, well, what can I do? So I was sort of inspired by cacao bean and, you know, and the pods, and I designed a couple pieces because I started with just two pieces, the beans here and then the pod, and they're both made very differently. Like they're two totally different techniques. And, you know, I can have fun with it because really, like for me, it's a lot of fun. It's really fun to sit down and do that work. The figuring out how it's going to work is sometimes the hardest part because I like really small details. Like in my jewelry making, there's a lot of detail orientated pieces as opposed to I guess more like modern, really clean lines and stuff. Like there is some aspect of modern to my things because I try to make everything be timeless. So like the cacao pod that you have, you could wear for years to come. It's still going to look like a cacao pod. It's probably like it's not following one trend that's super popular right now, right? Like it's going to be timeless, especially if you love chocolate.
As we all do. And comment now, it says, it's amazing how cacao cultivates creativity.
It does for sure. And ironically, Santa, there's always been chocolate on my workbench. Like there's always a little dish. It's always been full of chocolate. Normally it's M&Ms because they don't melt, right? Which is great because when I'm working with chocolate, I don't want any oils or anything like that to get on anything I'm working with. So there's normally just a little bowl. When I ask my partner to go to the store and M&Ms are on the list, he's like, "Oh, you're gonna work."
Focus.
He's like, "I know what those are for."
But that is so important to have those, like, boost our creativity. I've always had chocolate by my side too, whether it's like studying or whatever I'm doing, because it adds happiness to and an energy boost to whatever I'm doing.
It's very true, especially if you're working in the middle of the night. My favorite time is to work in the middle of the night.
Uh, then do you ever have like the nibs or the whole cacao beans? Because that for me is like, if I'm gonna sit and do hard work for hours, then I munch on cacao beans.
I don't so often. I sometimes put nibs on things, but I've never even really thought to do that while I'm working away in the middle of the night. I do have beans and nibs and a piece of like bean to bar chocolate on my desk, but they're very dirty and covered with all the things from my working area, but they're more of an inspiration, or I'm looking at the details of them to make something work,
Yeah.
not to munch on.
I, I was thinking about that too, since your work is so detailed, so you must have like prototypes, and you also know what cocoa beans and pods and all look like. But have you ever had a piece of chocolate and through that piece or that chocolate bar experience been, okay, now I know what I'm gonna create?
I don't know. Maybe. Like, I think that chocolate inspires me in so many ways. I'm just launching an origin series of pendants and earrings. And like, I made myself a Madagascar one because Madagascar is the origin that I love the most. It speaks to me. It's one of the origins that brought me to bean to bar chocolate and made me want to know more. So, I mean, certainly I could have chosen any country for that, but for my piece that I'm going to wear, it's Madagascar.
Lovely. Are those the ones that I've seen you post where you see the map within the silver?
Yeah, I'll show you. So, here,
Ah,
just let me put it against something.
yeah. There. Oh yeah,
Sorry.
silver and then it's hollow with the map.
Yeah, so the little map is, so it's very small, like it's tiny, and that's hand sewn. So, I mean, obviously, I didn't design the shape of Madagascar. It is the shape it is. But, I've put it into a little cacao pod shape. And, through my website, you can choose which country speaks to you. And from those, the pod will always be a little bit different shaped because each country is a little bit different. Some are wider, some are longer. So I think that it's going to be quite fun. I did Peru for one of my friends, and there's pictures of that back on Instagram. And then these ones launched to newsletter subscribers on the weekend and will be out probably tomorrow or the next day for everybody else to see. And you get to choose your own, right? So that piece is custom made for you.
Amazing.
Yeah. With my teeny tiny saw, which is one of my favorite tools ever, Sana.
It must be so tiny in order to work on those
Yeah.
things.
It's very, very tiny. And I probably have 20 different sizes of saw blades. Like, you need the right saw for the right cut, right? So like this one, I know it's sort of hard to see here, but let me see if I can. It's hard with the split screen to know where it wants me to put it.
Yeah, and it always it focuses on you rather, but we can still see. Yeah, and it has
Like,
such Madagascar has such a distinctive shape as well. You can really
well,
see.
yeah, and it's like you can't really see, but like over here, it's like a jagged little, like it's more than just a straight line, right? Like you can see all of the details of the piece, which again, like that's what I love to do. Like I like the details. So cutting something like that, while it's not maybe the easiest task, I mean, a straight line would obviously be easier. Um, it's a challenge, it's interesting. I think it would be really fun. I'm curious to do like some maybe, I haven't done them yet, but maybe some like a country with a couple islands. So like that there's a couple different cutouts in it.
To do Hawaii, all islands, or the Philippines, like the whole archipelago of islands. Wow.
So I think like every piece will be individual, even though, you might have a Madagascar piece and I might have a Madagascar piece. I can guarantee the cuts are going to be not exactly perfect because they are hand cut with my teeny tiny saw.
Amazing. As they are saying in the comments as well. Amazing. And Nicaragua, yeah, it's a very unique shape. And
Yeah,
I like this in general. Growing up, we had stickers on the car from islands that my family has connections to. And some islands are so distinctive. So if you know that island, you'll recognize that shape anywhere.
exactly. Well, and if you don't recognize the island, like people are going to be like, what is that?
And it will spark a conversation if they're brave enough to ask. And
Yeah.
they'll have this piece of jewelry because they love the cacao from Madagascar and it's chocolate related. Or it can be, this is where my grandma came from. Or it doesn't, this opens up for more people than just chocolate lovers as well.
Exactly. It's a little bit more versatile piece, as much as my pieces are very chocolate centric. Sometimes it's nice to go a little bit outside the chocolate world too.
Yeah. And then you can lure people into the world of chocolate through your art, like through your
Exactly.
jewelry.
Exactly.
I like and The paper you showed is the cacao shell paper, right?
That one isn't, no, but I do have some up here.
Yeah.
So this is a notebook made with chocolate bar wrappers, and it has cacao husk sprinkles in it. And it's also, most of my jewelry comes on a piece of paper with that as well. And I hand make that, and I just keep all my chocolate bar wrappers, and they eventually end up being made into something else, and sometimes it's paper. So Happy Meal for Chocolate Lovers subscribers got those notebooks, so they were made for them.
Amazing. And that is also one of these projects that you have that is so inspiring to send out happy mail. Just like that on its own, people need happy mail. I think a lot of people, if they hear the mailbox, they don't necessarily go, "Oh, someone wrote me a letter today." Um, so what is? Can you tell us a little bit more for those who don't know about your happy mail for chocolate love?
Sure. Happy Meal for Chocolate Lovers is created because I love mail. I love chocolate. Again, let's put things together that I love because that's what I like to do. And I'm a creative and I like to make things. And as much as I love making jewelry, Santa, I like to make anything. I am very crafty. I spent lots of years working in daycare, working in a lot of arts and crafts. I've taken various techniques of various like pottery, and there's so many things I've explored besides jewelry. And with Happy Meal for Chocolate Lovers, it lets me do that on a regular basis. It shares my love of chocolate with other people, and it gives people a big surprise. So I think people put a lot of trust in me when they think, okay, I'm going to sign up for this. That's great. Once a month, I'm going to get an envelope in the mail, and it's going to have, I don't know what in it, right? Like there's a couple things that come every month, but other than that, it's like my free reign. I feel like this is going in this month. So it really does change month to month. Sometimes there's a theme to the month, sometimes there isn't. And there's a couple ways to subscribe to Happy Mail. So you can subscribe to digital Happy Mail, which just drops something in your inbox twice a month. That's like the lowest form of supporting me in my art and getting something cool. And generally once a month there's a recipe, but normally throughout the month there's 4 or 5 different things that you get to enjoy, and they really do vary. Coloring pages, crosswords, activities. Last month I sent out photo tips for taking photos of chocolate. So all tied to chocolate somehow, and you never know what you're gonna get.
Surprise.
And exactly. And then there's a level that has me sending you a postcard, which I write a personalized message on. And again, the postcards have either been photographed or designed by me. And then there's the envelope, which is full of, you never know what kind of goodies.
Some of the things that I've seen that you post on the feed is that like the cocoa, the put together cacao flour.
Right. So the cacao flour, right?
Gorgeous. And you,
So, and I mean, like, it shipped flat with instructions. There was a video component. So if you told me you got your envelope, I would send you the link to the video, and it showed you how to put it together, because, I can't ship
no.
something like this. But, nobody had problems figuring out how to put this together. So like Happy Mail for Chocolate Lovers has things like that, right? It also lets me think outside the box, because when I decided to do Happy Mail for Chocolate Lovers, I very consciously made it fit in an envelope so it would be affordable, so it could ship worldwide in a speedy-ish kind of way, right? I mean, it takes a bit longer depending where you are in the world. Like one of my subscribers is in Montreal. It's very quick for her. Other ones are in Australia. It's a little bit longer for them.
Mail.
Especially the last year and a half, right? Like it's a bit, but no, it's fun. It makes me create new things. I really enjoy it. It pushes me out of my comfort box. It pushes me to always be working on something new and to design fun chocolate things too.
I think you inspire lots of people to be creative. And that is it's an amazing gift to give people. And you've done several videos to show different crafts that people can do, both on your page to inspire people and also with the chocolate notebook that I can see.
Yeah, right there.
I've got both editions of the chocolate notebooks, and I enjoy it for so many reasons. And you've been co-partner of the chocolate notebook for the last edition, adding lots of illustration and
Yeah, we reworked it a little bit for the second edition, and yeah, I brought some creativity to it because I tend to not think linear and I think outside the box and what does it need to be? What can it be? I tend to imagine things. I have lots of ideas, and sometimes it's deciding which one to follow through. So,
yeah, that must be a challenge. I can relate. It's like, okay, I've got all of these things I want to do. Where do I start?
exactly. And sometimes that's the hardest part. And you know, Sana, like the cacao flower that you saw there, like I designed that last summer. Like I have a cutout paper thing that I designed last summer, and it took me, a while to perfect it and to get it exactly how I want before I throw it out into the world. Because sometimes the process, right? Process takes a little while.
Yeah. And it's worth it because I think, well, I think we're different, but I'm the kind of person who likes to sit with my ideas and to make them feel right. I don't have
Yeah.
to rush to put things out there or and achieve my goals in no time. But we're all different. But
Exactly. I also tend to, and I don't know if it's from working with silver and gold a lot of my career, is that like I really think it through before I before I saw that piece of metal. Because once I saw that piece of metal, like that's an expense for me, right? Like as soon as you start working with gold, or like I used to work with a lot of gemstones and stuff, like you have to know exactly what you're doing before you sit down and do it. Because otherwise, like there's no second chance. Like you take a torch to something, it either works or it melts.
like, no.
Yeah, so like I think that I do think about things a lot before they materialize as a solid piece of something.
Yeah. But a lot of beautiful things happen through thought.
It's true, right? And I mean, nothing wrong with that. Especially if you're munching on a piece of chocolate while you're thinking.
That's the thing. Then it's easy to take a break to just, okay, sit, let the time pass and get some creative flow.
Exactly. So I just always find that there's always something that my hands want to do.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that we need more creativity. I think a lot of people today are scared to be creative. Um, and that I think you probably hear that a lot, that it's, wow, it's so beautiful. How can you create this? You are like that, as if it's a unique skill to be creative. Like your skills are unique and what you create is unique, but to have creativity, that's, I think everyone's creative, but some people don't know.
I think that that's true, but I also think that probably like some people are definitely more on the logical side than the creativity side. Like I think that there might be still that divide. But I think that everybody should find time to be creative, even if it like, it doesn't have to have an outcome. I mean, I make art almost every day and like you don't see a lot of what I do, Santa, because it's for me, right? Like it's not like this is the art that I produce that has a plan that I market. But there's also art that's just, hey, that's for me. That's fun. Why not? Let's try something, and you never know how that's going to work out. And there often isn't a plan with that, but you may see that several months later in something in Happy Mail because I took the chance to play with that.
Yeah. I I think I think that's a very important point, that we don't creating doesn't have to have a reason. It's a
Yeah.
way of expressing ourselves for ourselves. And I think that's when people are so stressed, we have so much to do, we need to find those things. Like sit down, read a book, or sit down and just put the pen against the paper and doodle. Like
Yeah.
draw. It doesn't have to have a reason.
And that's so true because creativity, like sometimes it can get out your feelings or your thoughts, or it can just turn your brain off for a little bit. Like it works different ways for different people, but for most people, it ends up being a positive experience. But sometimes starting it, right? Like sitting down and like, I'm just gonna play with some watercolor paint today, right? Like people are like, I should do the dishes, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Because it's something that we had time to do when we were kids, and
Yeah.
people might do it when they have kids, like, or they put the kids to sit and paint, and then they do the dishes next to them. But to take that time, and that's why it's inspiring what you've done with the chocolate notebooks, the videos that you put out, where people can make something. And I think that's what people want, to be crafty, people want to knit. I can make my own. Okay, then it comes to that you have to actually succeed with what you do, but you also have to, like, you then, if people can combine those two. So with the chocolate notebook, you have put up videos on the chocolate notebook page here on Instagram. So if you're curious, you can find it there. So what are the things that people can make with leftover cocoa wrapper, the cacao chocolate wrappers?
Right. We have some videos about making bookmarks, about making tabs for your notebook or any other notebook, about making pouches. We have I think there's a few other ones there. And they're all made to be super accessible to people. So like you don't need to have a lot of crafty things in your house because I mean, I have a great craft studio, but probably most people don't. You know, a little bit of tape, a little bit of glue, a couple chocolate bar wrappers, and some scissors, and most of the things that we've done there are good to go. So that, you know, encourages people to be creative and to also to reuse, right? Like, I mean, chocolate wrappers are beautiful. You know that. I know that you know that, San. I like that beautiful wall that you had in your place. Like, you know, you have to, you know, use what you've got. And if something's so beautiful, me especially, like I just hate like throwing it away, right? So I end up reusing it and creating some other form of art from it because I can. And, you know, part of what I can do is show other people how to do that sometimes as well. I also have on my blog, last year I did a series about Christmas ornaments from chocolate bar wrappers, which I'll be like refreshing people's memory of as they're coming up to Christmas this year.
That's really good. I actually started making the when you make circles and you may put them together.
Right, like I was gonna say, like I have like up there.
Yeah. So I started one of those. Yeah, and no goal. Like I was watching something and feeling that I could be a little bit creative at the same time. I didn't make it very long, and then I ended up not celebrating Christmas at all at my place. So
Mm.
I never finished it and I didn't put it up, but just sitting down and creating something gave me a peace of mind in what can be kind of stressful. So yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, and I mean, like, again, pretty simple. Just, you know, you can freehand cut circles, you could cut squares. You know, there's so many possibilities. And I mean, the wrappers are just gorgeous. I mean, as you saw, like, I have that hanging around the top of my office because I have a lot of chocolate bar wrappers around sometimes. And I, like, it really hurts me to, like, to recycle those. I guess I wouldn't be throwing them out for the most, well, some of them, it depends what's on them, right? Because anything with gold is not really recyclable here.
Yeah, and that's
So like you have to think about, what you're putting out. So yeah, I like to reuse stuff. And I mean, some of the wrappers are just so beautiful.
Yeah. And when you have those beautiful wrappers, sometimes it's like when the chocolate, the piece of chocolate or the bonbon is so beautiful, people are like, oh, I don't even want to eat it. And sometimes it feels like people look at craft chocolate bars and they understand that it's something gorgeous, but they almost don't know what to do with it. It's like, but should I just eat like should I just eat that and then recycle they don't have the idea that they can reuse them. So it's important to spread that.
Exactly. And I mean, there's so many ways. Like, I have little notebooks I've made with chocolate bar wrappers. I have boxes that I've made with chocolate bar wrappers. It's so easy to make a card, which is one of the other DIYs on the chocolate notebook. Like, just taking those beautiful pieces and reusing them. Like, why not? I mean, we all know that if we have craft chocolate bars around, we probably appreciate a little bit of handmade. Like, there's good craft personship in making bean to bar chocolate, so why not use that wrapper for something else? The makers really enjoy seeing it be used as well, in my experience. As much as I am cutting up something that, packaging is not cheap. Like, I'm aware of that. I have packaging of my own, right? But it's by making it beautiful, it can also be multi-purpose.
Yeah. And it becomes something new rather than just recycled, which I think they will appreciate.
Exactly.
We're getting comments from your fellow chocolate notebookers that they think that your ideas really brought something for both the chocolate notebook and for the chocolate community.
Well, Lauren and Annalisa are both wonderful people to be working with, and I was so happy when they invited me to work on the chocolate notebook with them. So we're getting ready to launch the third edition. So that is coming soon too.
Ooh, any news that you can share? Anything that will happen?
A little bit different than last year's.
I look forward.
Yeah, there'll be more about that on the chocolate notebook when we're ready to put that all out there. We're still ironing out the final details to make it just perfect. Because again, all those details matter. I'm very detail orientated. So I want everything to be ideal, and that means, we look at it again and again and again and tweak it.
And to put things aside for a little bit and then go back and look at it, because then you'll know.
Exactly. So we're very close to having it ready to go.
So exciting. I love that there's so much happening within, like we were getting in the comments before, how cacao can inspire so many different creative aspects. And there's been a lot of talk about, in general, cacao value addition, but also there's so much to do around cacao that is just amazing.
Exactly. The possibilities really are endless. And I mean, I know that it inspires you with your paintings, like you also are inspired by cacao and chocolate.
Yeah, definitely. Almost everything I do is connected to chocolate and cacao. And
Yeah, it's funny how that is. It just sort of sneaks in and I don't know, it takes over somehow. Like,
yeah, here comes the chocolate lady. It's like, that's me. Yeah.
exactly. And then when you tell people what you do, they're kind of like, huh, chocolate, eh? What?
Tell me more about that, please.
Exactly.
It's like, where to start? Uh, and I've had multiple times people have told me, unless you really want to know, stop asking her questions because otherwise I'm not gonna stop talking.
That's so true, right? Like, there's so much to share with people sometimes that, I get super excited about it. Obviously you can get super excited about it as well. But I feel like the information doesn't end. Like there's always new stuff to learn, or I mean, we've been in classes together, Sana. Like there's always something to know.
It's a never ending learning curve. And I think that's, people ask me how I got started with chocolate. And but part of it is realizing how little I know and how much I can learn and that it won't stop.
Hmm.
I can continue learning about chocolate and cacao for the rest of my life.
Exactly. And that there's always so much more, or a different opinion, a different book, a different idea, something different you can make, something different you can taste. Like there's always something new.
Yeah. Do you have a specific memory of when you knew that, okay, chocolate, it's it's bigger than, it's not just a part of my life as something I like to eat, it's bigger than that.
I don't know. Like I worked in a like as a chocolatier for several years when we lived in BC. And I worked seasonally during their busy seasons, and they, are just a small local shop, and um but everything was like really good quality ingredients, like everything was handmade. I remember weighing truffles, like they all need to be similar, right? Stuff like that. And like, I think then I started to realize that, chocolate is more than just like, a Kit Kat, let's say. And I mean, I'd always liked chocolate, like, don't get me wrong. There had definitely been bonbons in my life before then, but I think then I wanted to know a bit more. And, I did a bit of reading, and then, since then, the big bean to bar movement came, and that, I would buy chocolate, and sometimes you just buy chocolate and you're like, well, this is different, and then you're like, why? Right? And as soon as you ask that why, you end up going to figure out, why. So, I mean, like, it wasn't until I came to Ottawa that I really got into bean to bar chocolate. And that was mostly through shopping in Montreal.
Mm.
So that was interesting too. So I'm fond of like some of the Montreal bean to bar chocolate makers a little bit more because they were some of the things that I first had. But I also remember buying Hummingbird at the farmers market, like the first year that we lived here, when they were very small.
That
That
is,
that was some of the chocolate that, my bean to bar memories are, is like buying it at the farmers market right out of their hands when they were just making small, teeny tiny little batches.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when people get a connection, a personal connection to the person who grew the apples at the farmer's market or the one who made the chocolate bar. When we're, well, unless you're in a country where you can actually meet the person growing the cacao. But when you get that personal connection, you understand that it's bigger. It's bigger than you thought it was.
Exactly. Well, and I think, like that personal connection has always been important for me. Like as an artist, like, I started selling at farmers markets 25 years ago, at small art shows. Like you always met the person you were selling your product to, right? Like that was how it was done. That was before online shopping was a huge deal. That was before Instagram and Facebook, right? Like that was a long time ago. Maybe I'm dating myself there, but
Not that long ago, though. That's the thing.
right. So, like, things were differently, and there was a lot more person to person interaction. So, my preference still, like, a lot of our food in our house comes from the farmer's market because that is my preference, is to know where everything that we have comes from. Not just my chocolate, but, I love to know where my chocolate comes from.
Yes. And a preference is Madagascar.
It is. I do like Madagascar.
Ah, amazing. It all connects. And
It
that's,
really does.
do you have any exciting projects, new projects, or things that you are working with now that you, well, we know that you're going to release these new jewelry, the single origin series. Are
Yeah.
there things coming up shortly?
I have those coming into the shop. I have the cacao flowers. These will be available in, you can buy them in yellow. This one is the multicolored one. You can buy them in white. You can buy them in pink. And they will come in 2 different sizes, and you can just order a dozen. So, like, it's,
Mm.
I'll send you a dozen flowers, Santa. They'll arrive in an envelope. You have to put them together.
Oh, beautiful. Like,
Right? Like, I feel like it would be a fun little gift for somebody. As much as I love fresh flowers, they don't last forever. I have them here. They're like, I've added them to a branch.
yeah.
So these are a smaller version.
Yeah.
So this one takes a little bit more DIY skill, not gonna lie. And it's held together with the seed bead. And I mean, I've used white to show, but you can just add thread on the back so that you can attach it to something really nice. Over here I have them on a hoop too. It's sort of harder to see against that advent calendar, but they're fun. They're hitting the shop. I have some new cards in my shop as well, Santa. I got a new tool in my office a little while ago. And it lets me do different things. So I've spent a few months playing with that, which means, new things are coming. But it's a cutting tool, and so I've designed this. It's probably backwards, but it has chocolate and has pods. So that's just, this one here is a mini card, and it's made so that, you can pop it on top of a chocolate bar. Like the size is proportionate to that. And then I also have some foiled cards coming. And this one is a cacao flower card, and this one here has gold foil.
Yeah. Does it say happy
And this one says happy birthday, and it can say whatever you like. So they're made to order again, so it can say whatever you like. And in my mind, you would send a happy birthday card and a dozen flowers.
Yeah. I've
Like,
those flowers. I've got friends who are so into sustainability, and then again, the flowers don't last, and
yeah,
a lot of times we don't know where the flowers come from. That's not something that, I mean, we might think about it, but if you just go to a random shop and you pick up a dozen roses, you don't know where the roses come. They don't grow locally where you live, almost never. And again,
exactly.
sustainability and fair trade and fair in cacao flowers. And with your flowers, I know where they come from.
Exactly. And they're going to last, right? I mean, they might need some dusting or a little bit of a shake every once in a while, but somebody also said they would make a great ornament. And I mean, that's 100% right. Like if you just wanted to add a string to the little brad on the back of this, it would hang just lovely.
You can wear it in your hair.
Wear it in your hair. You certainly could. But I mean, like it's, you can you can make it a little bit flatter, a little bit stronger. I mean, it looks fine flat as well. Like
Yeah.
it just looks different, right? So those are coming. I haven't decided if maybe I'll offer a really, really small version of them, Santa. And like by small version, I mean like, where's my, like,
Oh, wow. That's
like
so
it,
pretty.
it's like a teeny, teeny tiny
Yeah.
version of it. There it is.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So those are things coming soon. The chocolate notebook is also coming soon.
Yeah.
Um, we like to get that out before the end of the year so that people, if they want, can start it in January. But of course, you can start the chocolate notebook anytime. Like there's intentionally no dates added to it so that you can make it work for you best. Yeah, and as always, Happy Mail. I mean, Happy Mail, you can subscribe almost anytime. Currently, you can't subscribe for an envelope. That'll be open again November 2nd. Just for what I was doing for November, I needed numbers a week or two ago.
Mm.
So that was on a bit of a pause for a little bit, partly because I had a week of vacation. So there's only so much you can do sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Sometimes.
Happy Mail does make a fantastic gift for the holidays.
Yeah. And on your blog, you also give 100 recommendations for.
Exactly. So on the blog, I have a mini blog series now. It's 10 weeks, and each week I highlight 10 gifts for chocolate lovers, and there's a huge array of things. Like, last week I highlighted like Estelle does a course if you want to lead a chocolate tasting, or Sophia has Projet Chocolate. She has zodiac cards, which I thought were a little bit fitting for the Halloween season. But there's always so many things. Like, people just think a chocolate lover wants a chocolate bar. And I mean, I've also definitely focused on some chocolate bars, but there's more than just a chocolate bar. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. Like, probably when people give you a gift, Santa, they give you a chocolate bar.
It's a
Because
very
they think, exactly, right? So if you want to give a little bit more thought to your gift, like right now we're 5 weeks in, so there's 50 gifts up there. Over the next 5 weeks, the next 50 are coming, so there'll be 100 in total. And I wasn't sure if I'd be able to do it, Santa. Like, 100, it sounds like a lot, right?
yeah,
And I sat down one day and I like wrote out 80, like without thinking,
yeah.
right? So I'm like, all right, 100's doable.
That's good, really good. I've been enjoying those. Good inspiration. And it's like when people ask me what I want for Christmas, I'm like, look at that.
Exactly. Do you have anything favorite on that list so far?
mm, that's hard. I would like anything that Sophia has. So like I've been looking at those cards and like uh, it's very like there's so much inspiration there. Do you
Yeah,
have
there's,
a favorite?
pardon?
Do you have a favorite?
Well, my personal favorite is the jewelry that I make, but I'm like 100% biased against that.
Of course.
I mean, as for a favorite of other things, like, I think some of the books are higher on my list because like I have chocolate. If somebody was going to give me a gift, like, I have chocolate. Sometimes people who maybe aren't in the chocolate realm don't know which chocolate to buy me,
Yeah.
right? Like, a Lindt 90% is maybe not the chocolate bar to gift me. But people are giving you that to you with good intentions, but
Yeah.
um
But I know you love chocolate. Thank you. That is
exactly.
that is true. I do love chocolate.
Exactly. I do love chocolate, but I'm maybe a bit more specific about the chocolate that I like. So I've tried to bring some of that into the blog too, like some of the different bars that are out there, like a bar with cacao pulp, bars made at Origin. I tend to hit a bit more on the Canadian chocolate makers because a lot of my following is Canadian people. And, I do think I know a lot about the Canadian bean to bar chocolate makers and what they're producing, and I try to keep up with all of those as well. But also, there's tips there about, how to buy a bonbon, right? Like, what questions you might want to ask when you're
Yeah.
shopping.
That's just
You don't necessarily have to get something super high end. You can find something local, but maybe ask some questions about it while you're shopping.
yeah. That's very important. We should always ask questions.
And I think a lot of people don't, though. Like, a lot of people walk in, walk out for purchasing anything.
Yeah. And especially when it's around holiday season or somebody's birthday and you just, I can buy this. And then it's like not time to consider it deeper or putting a little bit of search into finding what's most sustainable or whatnot. Uh, because people try to make their lives easy, but we have to look at the bigger picture.
Exactly. And, that is asking the questions or looking where something's made or how it's made. And, I know that a lot of people in the chocolate world really ask those questions about a lot of things in their lives, just not about, like, not just chocolate, right?
I was asked a question recently what I think is the most important thing to share when it comes to craft chocolate. And for me, it's to value the cacao, to value the project. And I think if people start to do that with one thing, it will slowly grow because once we, as you said, once we start asking questions, we will continue to ask questions.
Right. I also find something to value is the work that has gone into creating whatever. Like there's fast fashion and there's slow fashion. There's fast chocolate and there's slow chocolate. And that sometimes, you might pay more for something, but it's intentional, the product at the end, right? Like that product has come from a lot of good intentions.
So true. Wow. We could continue to talking for hours.
We
Um,
could.
we could, and it would be so much fun. We know we can.
We know we can indeed.
So, but we're not going to do that tonight. Um, so if someone has any last questions, you might have the chance to get them in while I say that if I get to, again, make a wish for my Christmas wish list or for my next birthday, it's definitely your jewelry again. Because that's what, like, as this one, like, that was the best gift my last birthday, by far, like amazing. It made
And
my
and that one's a bronze cacao pod, and it was started carved out of wax, and then it has hand stamped the word cacao on the back of it.
I can't show, but
And
it's
it's really it's small. That's the joy of jewelry. So I mean, that's a beautiful one because I also like have another pod, but it's quite different from the pod that you have.
yeah, you can't see it exactly. That's the silver one that is longer, right? The one that you have now.
Yeah, and it's like yours has got a rough sort of texture, which some
Yeah,
cacao pods have, and mine has like a wavy texture, which we also know some kind of pods have.
they are all unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyone, my friends, family listening, jewelry made by this wonderful woman. Um, and I'm so happy that you wanted to join me today to talk
Thanks
creativity,
for having me.
laugh a little bit, and just have a wonderful hour here with you. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
and you're welcome. And I do just want to let people know, like my website is canadianchocoholic.ca, which will find you blogs and link you to my shop if you are interested.
Yeah. And they can follow you here on Instagram as well. And then there's like the link they can click on your profile to get the link to your website. So that's really easy if they would forget the name of the website. But please check it out. And if you have any questions, you can write it here at the bottom of the comments and I'll answer and make sure that you get the question too if there's something.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me, Sana. As always, it's been a good time.
So much fun. So thanks everyone for watching. And of course, there will be a replay. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day where you are the rest of the day and or a lovely evening if you're on this side of the world.
I was going to
Thank you.
say, lovely evening for you, Sana.
Yes. Well, it's dark now. I'm sitting in the dark because the sun is gone.
It's cloudy here, so there's not tons of sun, but a little bit. Like it's still a little bright. So
Yeah. So hopefully you can enjoy a nice walk by the lake.
no lake today, but maybe through the forest.
Yeah, true. The lake is
Far
next.
away now.
Yeah. Have a lovely day and thank you.
You too. Thanks, Sana.
Bye bye.
Bye.